Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Hey guys, this is Ernest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $EJames, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share to our podcast. Also, make sure you check out our new YouTube channel, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. We changed our name from the Deal to Heal podcast to the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube, because we are now beginning to have more podcasts on that channel. So you have this podcast, which is the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, as well as our partner podcast, what I want you guys to make sure you check out, which is the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James, which is also on our Deal to Heal Podcasting Network channel on YouTube. So make sure you go there and subscribe, because we also have other podcasts that's in production right now that we'll be bringing to you soon. So you'll have multiple podcasts on this same channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network channel. So make sure you guys go check this out, as well as make sure you also check out the Girl Dad Discussions podcast on your podcast listening platforms. It's an amazing podcast where I talk to other girl dads like myself. I am a girl dad. But I talk to other girl dads like myself about the relationship that we have with our daughters and the raising of our daughters. And as a bonus, I even have daughters on to talk about their relationship with their fathers. We have a good time, great conversation. And so you guys definitely want to make sure that you guys are checking that out. Also, I'm going to tell you guys how you can win $100 from the podcast, but you got to stay into the end of the episode in order to get that information to get the $100 from the podcast. So our next thing of order of business is our product of the week. As you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we pay our bills is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase in support of the podcast. And so, our products of the week for this week is our uh, purpose journal as well as our purpose planner, right? Our purpose journal and our purpose planner. You guys can see it. Those that are watching, you can see it on YouTube. If not, guys that's listening, go into the description and the information will be there. But we have our purpose journal and our purpose planner. And I believe that we need to journal in order to remember where we've been and where we are. And then we need to plan to where we want to go. So make sure you guys pick up your purpose journal and your purpose planner. And that is our products of the week, which also coincides a little bit with our guest for today as part of the story of how we met. So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Miss Shauna. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. And yeah, let's get into it.
No problem. No problem. First of all, let me say thank you for being here, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you took out the time to be here with me and my listeners, and I definitely appreciate it. And so I'm gonna jump right in with this part of the story because I think it's amazing, the people that you run into and the communities that you have, right? And so I mentioned about the purpose journal and the purpose planner, right, that I have now. And in my creation of it and coming to terms with it and wanted to create it, I knew my vision, but as far as like the technical part of it, I'm like, I don't know how to do that, right? And so I was looking for someone who could do it for me, who could create it for me. And your husband, Terrence, right? I think we're in maybe 2 or 3 communities together. But one of them, I think, I don't know if it was the speakers community. It may have been the speakers community, but I think he also, well, I ain't gonna say think. I know he also follows David Shands, which is how I got into podcasting. Anyway, so I meet Terrence online, and he's like, "Hey, I can do that for you." And so we started the journey of, creating this journal and this planner. And so we get it done, and like, all right, amazing work. I'm very happy with it. And so I'm watching podcasts. I'm watching a podcast. I'm watching David Shands' podcast. I think it was his podcast or it was the morning meetup. Either one. And so I'm watching it, and it gets to the end, and David's like, "All right, you guys, I want you guys to take massive action, right? Like, I want you guys to take action." And he's like, "I'm gonna bring somebody to the stage and ask you to take action in your business at that time." And who does he call but you? And so I'm watching it and I'm like, okay. And then he had you call the people and things like that. And right. And at this time, I don't know you. I've this first time I ever seen you. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then you're telling your story, you're talking about the book. And I'm like, okay, cool. I wouldn't mind having her on the podcast. So I'm like, all right, later on, I'm gonna look her up and I'm gonna see who she is, and I'll reach out to her and to be on the podcast. So like, all right, didn't really think much of it. Like, all right, do it later. The next day, I get up and I go to Facebook, and Terrence has posted a post on Facebook, and he's like, my wife just released her book, and kind of go through the whole thing, like, she still asleep right now, so everybody, surprise her by supporting her with the book or whatever. And then when I look at it, it's you, and I was like, I was just talking about, I wanted to find out who you were and reach out to you, and that was just amazing to me. That you guys were connected, and how we were even in that same thing. And I just thought that was cool. And so I reached out to Terrence, like, I was just watching that video, of the podcast with David, and was like, I was going to reach out to the author, who turns out to be you. And little did I know that you guys were connected, but it was just amazing how, you just find yourself in different communities with different people and where that can take you. So now I have two Geralds, and you released the book, and even Terrence, I think even is out now, or he just released it.
It's
A
coming up.
poetry book, yeah, it's coming up. So
Yeah.
yeah, congratulations on all of your success, and even for even being on the thing with David. Like I said, that's why I seen you first, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna reach out to her, and it's just crazy how that all worked out.
That is crazy. Shout out to my amazing husband. He is, I love him so much. Yeah, that is crazy timing how it was just all aligned
Yeah.
and saw the post the next morning and he posted it and yeah, like it was all supposed to happen. So I'm really grateful to be connected to you and yeah, like it's amazing.
Yeah, and that's one of my affirmations. And that I do in the morning is God bless me with divine opportunities and divine appointments so that I
Right.
meet the right people at the right time to do whatever it is that you would have me to do. And
Yeah.
so this is just an example of one of those moments, right?
Yep.
It's just like boom, 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 and it all lines up. So
Allah. Well,
so Shwana, let's jump right into it, into the meat and potatoes of it. Do me a favor, introduce yourself to my audience. Tell them a little bit of who you are and what it is that you do.
yeah, so hey everyone, my name is Shauna Prey. My full name is Shauna Prey Alexandre. I'm an author and recording artist. This year I released my first book called Emptied, and I've just been on a journey of healing from brokenness and being emotionally numb. And I'm just following God's lead. I'm just following the path that He has for me. And my heart is to really speak to those people who think that their past holds them back or that they have nothing of value in them. That's just my calling. That's what I'm here to do. Just speak into those hearts.
All right, all right. So let's go back a little bit, Shauna, because you again you said you wrote the book empty from empty to empty. I want to make sure I'm
Yeah,
saying it right.
the
Okay, I
empty.
want to make sure I'm saying it right. So I'm sure that that was from your own life experiences, like something that happened to you that you would find yourself in that space, and then healed from it along the way. So I always like to have the backstory of what we're going through, because I know that, especially with my podcast, because the whole premise of it is to meet people where they are. And so I know that there are some people that may find themselves in the same position that you were in at that time. And so if you could just go back a little bit and tell us even your experiences, and what was the thing that what happened with you to bring you even to that space of, where you were feeling empty, and then how did you overcome that? And we'll just kind of go from there with your story.
Yeah. My story starts in a broken home, like a lot of people. My parents were divorced when I was young, and at that time, like that was my first like heartbreak. Realizing that I couldn't control my parents' relationship, that I couldn't control my situation, my living situation. And from that point, I just remember creating two different identities, two different parts of me to try to just make sense of my world. I just started to be fragmented in my world. And a little bit after that, I remember just going through a lot. Sorry, give me 1 second. My nose is yeah. So my story starts with a broken heart. My parents were divorced when I was pretty young, and that was the beginning of me just becoming fragmented and having different parts of myself. So when I realized that I couldn't control my parents' relationship, I couldn't control my environment, it literally there was something that happened in me that broke. And in I was also exposed to a lot of sexual things when I was a young child. So sexual images, videos, and all these things that just really had me in a place where I was really curious about sexuality, curious about these things. And I also dealt with child on child sexual abuse as a child, starting at the age of 5. So going through this, I had a broken heart from my parents' relationship, dealing with child sexual abuse. I became so many different versions of myself to the point where I felt like I had this secret life that I had to hold in. And that just created a ticking time bomb for me. And going into school, I was always trying to be the funny one. I always wanted to make people laugh. I became a people pleaser. And I just wanted to hide myself, hide my true self because of all this pain and turmoil that I was hurting inside of me. And I didn't even want to ask for help. That was also another
Mhm.
factor. I had so much like pride inside of me of like, I can't ask for help. I can't tell anyone the things that I'm experiencing because I'm going to get in trouble. And I had this fear, this deep fear inside of me. So when I got into high school and after high school, I started drinking heavily. I started smoking weed heavily. And I got into another heartbreak after losing my virginity, which I talk about in the book. Like, I'll be very frank in the book about the things that I went through. And that created another heartbreak. And I remember calling myself a savage. I wore this jacket that had the word savage on the back of it. And I was just like, that's just who I am. I don't care about my body. I don't care about men. I, I, I created this like hate for men in my heart. And I just didn't care if I hurt anyone else. I didn't care what I did about myself. I remember wishing something bad to happen to me. And I went through this tumultuous, self harming relationship with myself for about 4 years to the point where I actually had an encounter with God. And one day I was invited to church. I was gonna drink before I went or smoke. I was gonna smoke before I went, and something told me to like just don't smoke. Just go there and see what happens. And I remember going there, and God used the pastor to say three specific things that I was thinking about. I was thinking about my mom, I was thinking about my sister, and I think I was thinking about this. How am I going to change my life? Like, I'm already connected to all these people. I want to live this life. I want to drink. I want to smoke. I don't want to be in touch with myself because I'm scared to literally know what's inside of me. And when the pastor said those three exact things that I was thinking in my head, I was like, whoa, God actually knows my thoughts. And that just shattered my whole world in a good way. Because the whole time I thought that I could create these secret identities. I thought that nobody could actually see me. So when I heard that, oh my gosh, God actually hears me, I was like, whoa, I'm exposed. And I might as well I just gave my heart to him at that time. But then I actually became religious with it. I was like, okay, now I'm in God, and now I'm gonna try to work to be good. I want to do ministry. I want to do music. I want to do all these things to try to prove my goodness, and I was
Mhm.
trying to make myself look good for God. And that was a way of me trying to manipulate God. I was trying to manipulate him to give me vision, give me purpose, give me all these things without giving him my heart. And after this time, a few years, I started doing music. Things were going successful. I had my dad as my manager, and one day, God told me to stop everything. He said, stop. And this was literally right after winning a big award in Canada, which is the Juno Award, which is like American Grammy. And he told me to stop in the midst of this. I looked crazy telling people, God told me to stop. He told me to heal. And at that time, I didn't even know what that really looked like.
Mhm.
But I had my husband's support, which was at the time my friend, and I had a life coach support. And I just said, okay, God, like, I'm going to let go of everything that I feel like I built the career, the music career, trying to be good, all these things, so that I can actually understand what healing means. Because I went into ministry without taking the time to heal,
Mhm.
without taking the time to actually look at myself. I'm still hurting from the sexual trauma. I'm still hurting from the drug abuse. I'm still hurting from all these things. And that was in 2021. And since 2021, I've just been on a journey of learning how to journal, learning how to talk to God, learning how to be honest with myself. And through this journey, He gave me a strategy, the strategy I talk about in my book. And I just asked Him, like, how do I live this life without using anxiety? How do I live this life without, trying to be good or trying to force my way into this person that I wanted to be? And this book is the result of what he taught me through that process.
Good, good, good. So let's get into it and talk about the book a little bit. And one of the things that you mentioned when you were just talking, it was emotional numbness. That as sort of, I guess, how you described the space that you were in, even with that. And I know that sometimes uh, when we're dealing with different things, we do find ourselves in that moment where and if I could just say from my perspective, after you've been hurt so many times, it's like, you know what, I've been hurt so much that I don't care because I'm in this space of hurt. So now as a result, well, I don't care who I hurt now, and so you begin this journey of, relationships and experiences and whatever it is, and you just like whoever is the collateral damage of it is like, oh well, and again, that comes from a space of you not caring, not feeling, emotion to a certain extent or sympathy for other people, because it's like, well, nobody has sympathy on me, sort of thing. So when you talk about the emotional numbness, the space that you were in, tell us a little bit more about that space, to so we can identify with if that's a space that we're in, and then how do we kind of work our way out of it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's an amazing question because in my story, I experienced numbness before Christ and after. So
Mm,
before Christ, for me, looked like waking up in a hotel room, not naked, not even knowing what happened the night before to me, putting myself in dangerous situations, being around people who didn't care about me because we're just partying, and
mm,
literally waking up. I remember one time waking up in the hotel room, not knowing what happened the night before, and just looking in the mirror and just being glad that at least I wasn't sober, that at
mm,
least I was high, at least I was intoxicated. Even though I was like, what happened? But I was just glad that, okay, at least I wasn't sober, so I won't have to deal with it. That's what I thought. I thought I
mm,
wouldn't have to experience the emotions for it because my plan was every time I would be sad, I would drink. Every time I'm happy, I smoke. Just trying to get away from myself. And I realized that that is the fight, to try to separate us from ourselves so that we can't hear the voice of God, so that we can't hear our own thoughts, right? And the numbness for me after having that spiritual experience looked like me showing up to music video shoots with a smile on my face, but also, having suicidal thoughts in the night, dealing with feeling heartbroken and feeling like I have no clue who I am, trying to memorize a script of what do I say when someone asks me who, because my name before was Shauna Kane. Who is Shauna Kane? And I had no clue who she was. I was just trying to be who I thought would please those around me or what I thought would please God. And I just remember sitting sometimes after doing a whole day's work of ministry, coming home, eating ice cream. That was my new drug, eating,
mm.
watching YouTube. That became my new alcohol. That became my new weed. Staying busy became my party pills, all of those things. And it just looks different in different ways, but both are still self-sabotaging behaviors. Both
Yeah.
of them are still hurting ourselves, whether it's smoking weed or pretending like I actually want to do the ministry that I was living in. So yeah, it looks so different.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting that you said that, that even though is so different, it's still, suicide in a way. You're still killing yourself in a way. Just it looks different, but it has the same outcome. There's an artist, a rap artist, um, named Vo. It's Vo. It's his name. He's really big on YouTube, but he has a son. He has a song called Suicide. It's called Suicide, and so in it he talks about different scenarios that people are in, and those scenarios, like, is it what you think it is, or is it suicide? And so he talks about, in one, he talks about a young lady who's interested in, she don't feel desirable, she doesn't feel beautiful, and so she thinks about getting enhancements and things like that, and putting her life on the line by going through these surgeries. And he's saying at the end of it, he's like, is it really broody or is it suicide? Like, are you really killing yourself for attention? And so it's an amazing song. And it just, when you said that, it just related to me, because it's like, we think of negatively sometimes the things that we do, that's like, okay, that's suicide that you're doing this. But then sometimes it can be the opposite of, we're indulging just as hard into good things,
Right.
but if you're still not healed, you still putting the patches, putting a band-aid over a sore, and it's still, you're going to get the same result. It just looks different. So yeah, that really resonated with me when you said that. One of the other things that you speak about in your book is the pain of the past, right? And then I'm a big believer, and I believe it to be so, that our past connects us to what we do as adults. Like our childhood, there are events and things that happen in our childhood, in our past, that lives in our present, that it lives in our adulthood. And sometimes we don't realize it because we don't see the connections. But it's like, yeah, this happened when you were little, which framed your mind from that experience, and you're still acting it out as an adult, but you don't even, sometimes we don't even know why we do it. You're like, why did I do this? Why did I do that? And it's like, yeah, because this thing that happened, so long ago. And so you talk in your book about, the pain of the past and kind of coming to grips with that. Could you tell us a little bit more even about that idea?
Yeah. In the book, I give a list of traumas that I experienced. And I give a list of mindsets that I created based on my perspective of the trauma, based on what I thought about the trauma. And I give a list of, just so that people can also create that list. And I talk about, like, it's a map of your healing. You're now exposing it to yourself. You're bringing it now from the subconscious mind, I believe, to the conscious mind, so that you can start to work through these past issues. And a lot of times we suppress memories. We just push things down to the point where we can't even remember. Like, there are things that I still do not remember, but I know something must have happened at that point, and I'm still working through that. Okay, bringing up those memories that I have forgotten. And when it comes to healing from the past and the past hurts, a lot of things that I've had to do is like forgiving other people, forgiving myself. I've had to message people or call people that the Lord puts on my heart to ask for forgiveness or apologize. I've had to realize that a lot of the situations I had a deep need in myself that I was putting
Mhm.
onto another human. So I was
Mhm.
looking for that person to fulfill me in this way. And now that I'm growing into the person that God has me to be, I was still connected to a lot of those people from the past. I still had a lot of soul ties, open doors where people can message me. They have my number.
Mhm.
They have so much access to me. And it was so hard for me to cut off those people from the past. But that was a part of the healing process, because now I'm not allowing that open door for someone to say something, and for it to affect me so much, because I still have them on such a high pedestal in my mind. So I also had to let go of a lot of those same people who I had as idols in my life, who I wanted to be like, or I thought I needed to impress them in order to be good, or in order to be, a well versed person. I just had to take down a lot of the idols that I had in my life, because my past had become an idol to me too. I thought that my past defined everything about me, but I just had to be humble enough to let go of it and to say, okay, God, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to start over? Do you want me to let go of everything that I've experienced and try to understand myself from your perspective? And that's really what I had to do and go through. And I do it daily in order to walk this healing out from the past.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So the last thing I want to talk about, which I think is getting to the core of it, you know, speaking on the book, you said do it empty, which is our need to heal. And definitely, this is the Deal to Heal podcast, and so that's like my main thing. Like, I really believe, I named it the Deal to Heal podcast, but our mission is to deal, heal, and fulfill. Because I think we first have to deal with whatever those issues are. Like, we have to acknowledge that they exist, and the part that it plays in our lives, and then go through the process of healing. And then once we've healed, then the doors of our life of happiness and fulfillment, and even the purpose that we are given to fulfill, is wide open for us to then obtain. But if we don't go through the healing, and if we don't deal with those issues, we just drag them along, and it hinders everything that we go to do. And I give the analogy of, if you have a glass, and you pour some cooking oil into it, even if it's just a little bit, you're like, okay, you could live with that cooking oil, just that little bit on the bottom, if that's your life. And the cooking oil would the glass would identify as your life, and that cooking oil will be your traumas or your hurt that you're not dealing with. Like, it's just a little bit on the bottom, so you can be like, all right, I can manage with that. And so, but if you take a glass of you take water, which would represent your happiness and your success, and the things that you want in life, as you begin to pour that into that glass, which is all good stuff, it's your happiness and successful in your business, your education and entrepreneurship, all of that stuff, which the water represents, which begins to fill up your life, which you're like, oh yeah, this is an amazing thing. Unfortunately, it doesn't mix. And that water is going to push that cooking oil, which represents your hurt and your issues, to the top. And so when you get all that success and all of that happiness and everything you think you've gotten, all those things that you didn't deal with is going to slowly start rising to the top, And so it's better for us to deal with it, while before we get all the things that we're aiming for. Let's deal with that now, so that once we obtain the success, once we obtain the marriage, once we obtain all the things that we want to succeed in, now we're not self-sabotaging ourselves with the hurt from the past and the things that we didn't deal with from the past, that now begin to rise to the top, and if not dealt with correctly, can really start to tear down the very things that we built. And so again, you talk about in the book about do it empty, and the need to heal. So let's talk a little bit about that before we get out of here. Just even that mindset of how important it is to do the work of the healing.
Yeah, do it empty is the strategy that God gave me that time when I asked him, okay, you don't want me to live in anxiety, you don't want me to try to be a perfectionist. How do I live then? Because I didn't know any other way. I was like, how do I function? How do I get anything done without being in this robotic, numb position? And he told me, do it empty. And I was like, what does that mean, God? And as I sat with that more, he started to reveal the meaning of it. And it really is about the essence of being humble enough to take out everything that you're holding and to release it to God. So it comes from the example of Jesus when he was about to face the cross, about to face that pain and all that discomfort. And it says that he emptied himself and he put aside his will, he put aside his focuses or whatever that he would have to make room for God's will, for the Father's will. And for me, do it empty is the understanding that the reason why it's hard to heal for some of us sometimes, we are in a cycle of either avoiding our healing or being obsessed about it. And those two are both unbalanced. And this strategy is to give relief in the process as you're working through the healing. So do it empty. There's three parts of it. It's ease, open, and attach. So these are three things that I do every day, three rhythms. Ease is to acknowledge and remember. So when you're easing, you're doing things the most effective way, not just the fastest way. You're not just rushing to get everything done. You're like, what is the most effective way to do this podcast? What is the most effective way to create this content? What is the most effective way to care for my family today? Rather than just, I need to do all these things. And it's about rest. Open is about now opening your heart and just exposing what's inside of you, and now being really transparent with yourself, with others, and with God about what's inside of you. And then attached now is, now that you went through those processes, you're resting, you opened up your heart, you're attaching to now what God says about you versus what you've been holding on to yourself. And this whole process now is meant to bring everything to the surface, empty it out, and then be filled with things that are helpful. You said something earlier about like just doing things out of, what makes you feel productive, but it's actually not what God wants you to do. There's a scripture that says everything is good, but not everything is helpful to do.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a difference between what things are good and what things are actually helpful and productive. So this whole strategy just helps every day to remember, okay, I'm working through this healing process, but I need to ease, open, and attach. And if you follow this rhythm, you live a life of healing rather than being obsessed with it or avoiding it.
All right, and that's definitely where we want to get to, where we're actually living a healed life and not just skating past it or dealing with it. Um, I want to thank you for being on. I definitely enjoyed the conversation. And I want you to have the last word, right? I want you to have the last word. And I want you to tell my listeners, just leave us with something that they can take with them, a word of advice, inspiration, however you feel, just something for to leave the audience with. But also I want you to leave your social media handles and things like that, and definitely the information where they can find the book, right, where they can get the book. So I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys for tuning in once again to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Make sure that you guys are checking us out on our websites. Our main website, which is the dealhealfulfill.org website. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org. Those words should sound familiar because that's our message. I mean, that's our mission, right? Wrapped into one. So on that website, we will have all our information as far as everything that we have going on as a whole, more information about me coming out as a speaker, to be a speaker, or to facilitate a workshop for you. You can have me come out. You can find that information there, as well as everything else that we have going on as a company. You can find there at dealhealfulfill.org. Also, you can look up our inspirational teas t-shirt company, which also includes our podcast merch t-shirts. So now we also have our podcast t-shirts to help support the podcast. But that's deal the number two healtees.com, deal2healtees.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. So make sure you guys go there and check out deal2healtees.com. And last but not least, make sure you guys go to ebooksbyejames.com. That's ebooksbyejames.com, where you can find several ebooks that I've written, including one called The Core Four, which is the 4 core values that every daughter should get from her father. That is there. That is one that I'm very proud of. That is also one that we talk about in detail, a little more detail, on the uh, Girl Dad Discussions podcast, because I supplied the dads with a copy of that ebook, and then we kind of discuss, those core 4 values that we want to instill in our daughter. But you can find that as well as other ebooks at ebooksbyejames.com. To make sure you guys go there and check that out. Also, I've been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do every quarter of the year, we have free virtual workshops. Actually, it's not even every quarter anymore. Now it's every other month. We actually start doing a little bit more this year. So it's every other month. We have free virtual workshops talking about forgiveness, what it is, what it's not, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, even forgiveness of the world, right? So we talk about everything forgiveness, and I think it's a very important topic for us to dive into as a people. So make sure you guys go to forgivenessmission.com to register for the next virtual workshop. You can take it on your phone or on your laptop, and it's completely free. Again, you can go to forgivenessmission.com to register, or you can go to Eventbrite and just look up forgiveness workshop held by the Forgiveness Mission and register that way. So make sure that you guys check that out. I think it is an amazing resource that we have. Also, last but not least, I told you guys that I would tell you how you could win $100 from the podcast. And you can win $100 from the podcast by joining our super subscriber contest. What does that mean? That means you must first subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook page, and to our podcast on Spotify. Then text the word WIN, W-I-N, to the number 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. The contest is ongoing and is random, which means once you're in, you can always win. So just make sure that you text the word WIN, W-I-N, to the number 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. And make sure when you text the word WIN that you also leave us with your contact information so we can contact you and let you know if you are our next $100 winner. That being said, Miss Shauna, again, thank you so very much for being on. I really enjoyed the conversation. I really enjoyed even how all of this came together with how we met. I just think that's an amazing story and how things just worked out. Like I said, but that has always been my part of my morning prayer and affirmations is divine appointment and divine opportunity. And I do believe that this was divine and that this opportunity will be here for this moment. So that being said, I thank you so very much for being on. I want you to have the last word. So the floor is yours.
I just want to leave everyone with this word that encourages me. And it's that you can always learn how to do something better. You can always learn how to heal better, more effectively. You can always learn how to journal better, how to be a better friend to yourself. So just don't give up on the journey because there's always an opportunity as long as you're breathing. And you can find me on social media at Shauna Pray Speaks. That's my Instagram. You can find the book, Emptied to Emptied, on Amazon.com. And you can search my name, Shauna Pray Alexandre, and you'll find the book. Thank you for having me, and glad that I could be a part of this.
No problem. No problem. Can't end it no better than that to my listeners. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.